everyone, this is Michael, and welcome to the LoveWorks Dreamers and Doers podcast. We're bringing you today episode number 59. And at LoveWorks, we believe that you are never too young to be a dreamer, and you are definitely never too old to get started working on your dream. Carolyn and I, we just wanted to thank you so much for tuning in to our podcast. We definitely know this. There is not a shortage of great podcasts out there that are going to inspire you, encourage you, and really get you fired up to pursue your big dream. So thank you for tuning into ours. If you're new, we just want to let you know that we do have a YouTube channel, LoveWorks Leadership. You can subscribe to that. And hey, we would even love it too if you subscribed on your favorite streaming platform. That could be SoundCloud, iTunes, or Spotify. Find our podcast, Dreamers and Doers. Give it a star. We're not going to beg you for a 5-star, but give us a star, and we would love a review, a feedback, because we want to make this podcast the best we possibly can, Carolyn.
Yes, that is super true. So our hope with the Dreamers and Doers podcast is that each week our special guest is going to connect with you wherever you find yourself today, and they're going to inspire you to become the best version of yourself for tomorrow. And so, Michael, we haven't done this in a little while, but I'm excited to say it. It's time for our roll call. So if you are out there right now, you're watching us live, go ahead, comment your name, where you're at, and also, if you're a student, let us know what grade you're in, and answer this fun question of the day. So I think our special guest today is a bit of an aficionado for shoes. And so, Michael, today's question is, what is your favorite brand of shoes?
Favorite brand of shoe happens to be the shoe that I'm wearing at this very moment. So brand of the shoe is Hoka. And you know that I may have an upcoming race in the near future if I'm wearing Hoka shoes. And so the brand I'm wearing is Carbon X. And so they're the ones that are making me comfortable and I think somewhat fashionable, Carolyn. How about you?
I'm seeing more and more people, not even in the realm of like athletics, and they're starting to wear Hokas. So I hear they're like walking on clouds. So for myself, Michael, my favorite brand of shoe is actually Vans shoes. And so this is for dual reasons. I love to longboard and go skating. So they're the perfect shoe for that. But the other side is that they're super cool and colorful. There's so many different patterns. I think in the last few years, I probably have around 20 plus different patterned Vans. But I love their motto because it's called Off the Wall. And they say to us, off the wall is a state of mind. It means thinking differently and embracing creative self-expression. It's choosing your own line on your board and also in your life. And I'm like, I feel that. I love Vans.
I get a feeling that I think our guest today would be feeling that motto as well, too. Don't you think?
I think so.
Well, speaking of today's guest, we're going to get there in just a moment. But if you're tuning in for the first time for Dreamers and Doers, we just want to tell you about our format. And the format looks like this. Each week, we have the real fortunate opportunity to sit down with a different guest that we would call a dreamer and a doer. And we've had world-class, first-class personalities from around the world on our show. And we love to take some time to be able to at least have our guests share part of their story, maybe even one of the dreams that they have reached or that they have sought after. We don't like to stop there, but we love to also hear about what were some of those early steps, perhaps even challenges and obstacles that they had to get from the place where they're at now to the place where they want to be. And so that's our hope, that these stories will inspire you, encourage you, challenge you, and motivate in some kind of way to, again, be the best version of yourself.
I know today's story is definitely going to do that. But before we jump into the interview, we have a trivia question and a chance for you to win a prize. So I think we're going to be giving away 2 prizes for this one, depending on the answers. There's actually 2 correct answers for this. And so the question is, what is the fastest Ironman finish? So you've got it for, I believe, the men's and also for the women's. What is the fastest Ironman finish? So if you are out there, go ahead, drop that answer in the comments. And first person that gets it correct, we're going to send you a copy of today's guest book, Finding My Voice, and it's going to be mailed to your house this week. So let's see if we can find any correct answers.
Sounds like I need to jump in the action here to get myself a copy of this book.
We've got a few guesses so far. Some students saying 14 hours. Another student saying 13 hours. You guys are close, but keep going, keep going.
They must be watching. They must be aware of my stats from previous microphones. Well, let's get into our interview today. We are so thrilled. If you haven't met him already or heard him already, let's meet today's guest, dreamer and doer, Mike Reilly.
Mike Reilly, the official voice of Ironman worldwide and a member of IRONMAN Hall of Fame, the USA Triathlon Hall of Fame, and Running USA Hall of Champions, is the only person to have been inducted into all three. Mike has also done on-site announcing and television coverage for over 1,000 other triathlon and running events in 10 countries. October 2021 will mark his 31st appearance as an announcer of the Ironman World Championship in Kailua Kona, Hawaii. He's called 194 Ironman races worldwide, and his iconic call of "You are an Ironman" has been heard by over 350,000 finishers. Hi, Mike.
Hi, guys. Aloha. How are you?
Aloha.
Aloha. Great to have you, Mike. We're absolutely thrilled to have you on today.
Thank you. And thank you very much for having me. You guys just, you emit emotion and smiles. I love it. You got me all jacked up. Plus your introduction music. I was sitting here dancing with it. I might use it at the finish line of an Ironman.
You are too kind. Well, we've been our office and our campus here in Norman, Oklahoma. I know you're in San Diego right now, but in Norman has been buzzing. We've been showing Ironman triathlon videos. We've been telling stories. We've been talking about you, Mike. So who needs caffeine when you've got Mike Reilly? So Mike, the countdown is on. We'll get into the interview in just a second, but I'd be remiss if I didn't remind us all that at the time of this recording, we are 12 days out from the inaugural Tulsa, Oklahoma Ironman race, which will be the first North American Ironman in 2021. Are you getting ready and excited?
I am so excited. I've been looking at the entry list. I've been looking at the pros. I've been checking out the course. It's like I want to be there now. So I can't wait. I just cannot wait to see everybody. It's like in Hawaii, it's our ohana. It's our family. And we're going to discover a lot of new family members in Tulsa. And that's my most favorite part.
That's going to be awesome. I'm excited to be there. It'll be my first experience getting to see the finish line, not running it myself, but well, Mike, we're excited to get started on this interview. And we call ourselves the Dreamers and Doers podcast. And so we know who we're bringing on is a dreamer and a doer, someone who has dreamt big, but also has gone on to do it. They're not just going to sit and keep daydreaming, but rather they actually pursue it. And so to kick us off, I love getting to ask this question. Mike, you're obviously both, but which one do you consider yourself more naturally?
Oh, definitely a dreamer. I actually probably was too much of a dreamer and early on in my life and not a doer. And when I got out of college, I started figuring out, okay, these dreams are great, but you better do something about them. So, but I still dream when I'm on my bike about winning a race. I still dream about out for a run and everybody's behind me. I dream about finishes I'm going to see in the future and how people's lives are going to be changed right before our eyes. So I'm definitely a dreamer, but obviously with what I've been able to do in my life, I've turned it into a lot of doing. That's for sure.
Well, Mike, we're definitely going to get into period of time post-college and what you're up to today. And I know you're not necessarily someone who likes to spend a lot of time talking about yourself. You place a lot of emphasis on the opportunity that you have through Ironman, being one of the voices of Ironman, to encourage others to reach their big dream. Would you mind taking us back just to early childhood and painting a picture for us about what was life growing up like for you?
It was great. I grew up in Ohio and I had a younger sister, 4 older siblings, but they were almost out of the house when we were growing up because they were much older. And just had a great life, was into sports, played baseball, played football, played basketball, ran, and then got into high school and I became a wrestler. I wrestled in high school and college, and that taught me a lot of discipline. And it was a great upbringing. And then it's interesting because after I got out of college, I decided to move to San Diego because I wanted to work out every day in warmer weather. So my childhood and my growing up was fantastic. There were some trials and tribulations during that time, but we as a family, the Reilly family, got through them and kept moving forward. And that taught me a lot about, coming to that hurdle sometimes and going, who put this thing here? Why is this here? This shouldn't be for me. I've been working hard, but you got to jump over the doggone thing. And when you do, and when you get to the other side, you end up finding out, you know what, if I did that, I can do more. So that's what my childhood taught me.
It's good. Mike, we often talk about at LoveWorks with our students and on this podcast about the journey that we take and about our pathway. So you talked about a few things that you were involved in growing up, especially athletically. When did you begin to have maybe an instinct, an idea in a direction that you began to pursue, whether that was either middle school, high school, or even into college?
I always loved to interact with people, to communicate. And I got into sales. I had a running shoe stores in San Diego, so I was in retail sales, and I got to meet a lot of people, but I also got to produce income selling. But the communication part of it just kept coming forward. And then when somebody handed me a microphone, I go, oh my gosh, I still love selling, which I've done my whole life. And then this other part is like fulfilling both. People would say, you can't do both things. How can you go travel and announce this race and then come back on Sunday night and work all week long? I go, how can I not? I love both professions, and they both produce income for me. So why throw that away? Why make a choice like that? Yes, it was longer hours. Yes, it was gone away from home, probably a little too much. And yes, I had to work harder than the next person. But you know what? In the end, it paid off, and it paid off quickly. It paid off much sooner than I thought it would, because I got into that groove of that's who I was. And my wife and I started a sports magazine. All of a sudden, there was 3 things we were doing. The old adage is, if you want something done, give it to the most busiest person you know, and it'll get done. And that's just how I lived my life. And still live my life. And that's what those early years taught me.
Wow.
So, Mike, I need to ask, because anytime we had career day at school, we'd have like a firefighter come or a police officer, and they tell us, it's like, this is how I got there. Now, when did you first get a mic put into your hand and you became an announcer?
I always liked speaking, so I was in a Toastmasters group where we gave speeches every week, and you were critiqued pretty heavily if you messed up, which was good. And I always liked that. And then I was running races in San Diego, and at one event I was hurt. I had a bad hamstrings, but I showed up because I had a lot of buddies running the race. So everybody took off on the run, and the race director, who I knew she goes, "What are you doing?" I go, my legs hurt. I can't run. She goes, "I've got this little microphone and this megaphone speaker with a printout of everybody in there. Why don't you just call their names when they come through?" So the first thing I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I can make fun of my friends when they're coming through the finish line, and then people started coming in, and I started calling out their names, and the look on their face, like, who is that? They're looking right and left, and oh my gosh, thank you. And people came up afterwards and said, guys, thanks for what you said. And I don't know what I said in particular to that person, like maybe you're a champion or great job or whatever, things I would want to hear when I'd finish a race. And it kind of hit me. I go, God, this is cool. I get to tell people they accomplished something, even though they know it, even though they ran it, even though they prepared for it and were on the journey. I was at that point where, oh my gosh, I did it. And I got to say, you are a champion. You well done. Great job. Wow, look at your time. Whatever I said. So that just, all of a sudden, people kept calling up and going, hey, can you announce the race? Can you announce the race? And most of the time I'd say, well, I'm running it. I can't announce all the, I want to run the thing. And then one day an event director came up and said, well, I'll pay you this much. And I'm thinking, you're going to pay me to like BS on the microphone? You're going to pay me to just just talk. Are you kidding me? I thought I thought I died and went to heaven. So I said, all right, I can always run the race. So that's how it all began. It was really happenstance, but I knew I enjoyed it. I didn't know it was something I wanted to do, to speak publicly. I spoke in front of groups and stuff, but all of a sudden this was different. This was at a finish line with no script, no.
Right.
The only preparation, you look at the names, and then figure out who the sponsors are and give them props. But it was kind of free for all, and I like that. I like being able to just go, and when they say go, just go, and I just was able to do that for some reason.
Wow, it's powerful, Mike. I know there's so much that goes into these moments that you have the opportunity to experience with athletes at the finish line. But there is something that I read in your book, and we made a comment about it earlier, your book, and we'll dive into this a little bit later into the interview, your book called, Finding My Voice. And you said something in the beginning of the very book that really stood out to me. And it talked about how you said that you very rarely will use, at least on race day, words that begin with either me or I. But the focus is on the athlete. Can you talk to us just a little bit more about that?
Well, I would go to other events and I'd hear the person on the microphone focus everything towards them. Like they were the talent. So that meant they should be accentuated, and the one to do that would be them. I found that so different than who I am. Plus, what it really did, which I thought was a travesty, was take away from the athletes. Take away from the doers. Why would we ever want to take away from a doer and talk about yourself and not their accomplishments? So I just never, I don't say I or me, like I talked to him before the race or look at me, I did this. Yeah, because it's going to take away from the accomplishments of the athletes, the people that have worked so doggone hard for so many months, sacrificed so much in their lives to all of a sudden they come to the finish line and they hear someone talking about, well, when I ran this race 10 years ago, that's all fodder to me. That means nothing. So that's why I don't, it's not about me. It's not about Mike Reilly at the finish line. While people may glorify what I do at the finish line, which is nice, but that's not what moves me forward. What moves me forward is that very next dream coming true right in front of our eyes at the finish line. That person who never thought and was told through their life they couldn't do it, and all of a sudden they finish an Ironman. I see it no other way. It's all about them. 100%.
Mike, I get goosebumps just hearing you describe that. Prior to just this interview, we were talking about something we heard you say that I thought was just so powerful, and it let us in again just about these finish line moments. And I know we're talking about in the context of a race, of triathlon, but it can be used as an analogy for many other aspects of life and different goals and dreams that we're pursuing. But I heard you say that, when you say those words, you are an Ironman, it's not so much about the athlete actually crossing the finish line and what they did, but it's actually more about speaking and who they've become. I just thought that is so powerful and so profound.
And I keep that in mind because everybody has their backstory. I don't always know what it is. They could have gone through some terrible tragedy in their life, whether it was death or whether it was cancer or no matter what it was. I don't always know those stories. So I know there's a declaration of them declaring to themselves, I did this and I'm the best. And that's okay. It's not a conceited thing or anything like that. So when I say those 4 words to somebody, sure, I'm telling them, wow, fantastic job. You went 140.6 miles. You are an Ironman. But what it really is, it's declaring and giving them that audio diploma that they deserve. They deserve it more than they deserve it more than me in saying it. And so it is a declaration of who they've become. They took on a task that is enormously tough, and they succeeded. Not many people can say that throughout their lives. Take the toughest task you can think of, and succeed at it. So it's a declaration of who that person became through their journey of training for it. And man, when they hit that finish line, sometimes I just think their foot goes on the finish line and there is somebody new. There's a newer version of themselves, and they love it, and I love it, and the crowd loves it.
I think that's been one of the most intriguing things that I've been reading about when it comes to Ironman races is that transformative process, and kind of even learning that it's not necessarily even about the finish line, but it's the person that you become at the very end of it. And I think you even mentioned this a little bit in your story and telling about the hurdles, right? Like if you can cross over that one hurdle, then what about the next one? Like things seem less and less impossible. I think from the perspective of an Ironman, if you can do that, what's standing actually really in front of you?
And it's interesting, Carolyn, because Ironman mimics life, and life mimics Ironman. You're going to start the race, and you're going to go through some bad patches during that event. Sure, it's a one-day event. It's not a whole lifetime, but you're going through some bad patches. Do you walk off the course and go home? No. You go through those bad patches. You mentally figure them out. Physically, you're prepared, and you get through it. You come to the other side. You keep going. Then all of a sudden, another roadblock could be in front of you when you get on your bike, and then another one when you start running. That's what life's like. I mean, we come to roadblocks all the time, and I believe that is such a good thing in our lives, embracing those roadblocks. And you know what? If you want to play the woe is me game, and you can do that. I say, I let you do it. You can do it for like a half a day. And then all of a sudden move on, because nobody else really cares. And you've got to be the one to care more than anybody else. Yeah, I didn't do well on that test. And if you analyze it, why didn't you do well on that test? Well, I didn't prepare as much as I thought I probably should have. Sometimes in life, we don't need to be told what to do. It's in our heart and our gut. We're telling ourselves. And a lot of times I end up talking to myself like, why did you do that? You got to go. You can't do that. Come on. Wake up, Mike. What's wrong with you? And that seems to get me out of a funk more than somebody saying something encouraging to me, because, we really know when we're lying to ourselves, but we really know when we're telling ourselves the truth. And it's powerful.
That is powerful. Mike, you mentioned talking to yourself. I know that is something that you practice regularly. You mind even just sharing just part of that discipline in your life and what that looks like?
Well, it's interesting. When you get on the microphone, a lot of times I will say to myself what I'm going to say next. Well, here's so-and-so, he swam this, and I'll just start it out in my head, and then I come out with it, and it seems to flow better. I don't stumble with the words. I don't hesitate. And when people are listening to somebody live, they don't hear everything. There's music going, there's friends talking to them, they're looking at this runner or that athlete, and they don't listen to all my words. So I bring them out in patches for them to be able to pull them in. Daniela Reef just ran the last mile in 5:15. Can you believe that, everybody? And I kind of always look, and they go, "Oh my God, did you hear that? Daniela Reef ran the last mile in 5:15." I let them assimilate it because I picture myself out there. I go, "Yeah, she ran," and then I'll come out with something else about somebody else, and because just like in a speech or when you're having a one-on-one conversation with somebody, it can't be one-sided. You're going to walk away. That's not communication. That's not listening. So I try to do the same thing when I do it live.
That's good. Mike, you mentioned Daniela Reef. I believe Daniela is planning on being in Tulsa in 12 days.
Yeah, like wow, that's huge.
So if you don't mind, let's go there for just a moment. You called your first Ironman race in 1989, and then just 12 days, we have Tulsa, Oklahoma on the horizon, where Oklahoma gets its first taste of an Ironman race. I'm not saying that you have a hope for this, or maybe you do. What would you hope that Tulsa and Oklahomans would take away just from this experience and opportunity that we have as a state to have this race?
Oh, I know what they're going to take away, Michael. I've been at a lot of first time races, and community members will go, "Oh, it's an Ironman. It's cool." I go, "You just wait. You're going to see more passion flow in front of you than you've probably seen over the last year's period of time in your own life." And they go, "What? What are you talking about?" And all of a sudden, they start seeing what these athletes are doing from 18 years old to 85 years old. And they start seeing what the pros are doing. They actually almost think it's not happening, like this is not believable. So when I come to an Ironman, especially in a new community, I am so excited because I know what they're going to see. Whenever we go to a new community, you'll have so many local people doing the race. That grows every year. First year at Coeur d'Alene, I think we had like 7 or 8 do the race from the Coeur d'Alene area. All of a sudden, 5 years later, we've got 45, 50 from the Coeur d'Alene area. What's that tell you? Actions are speaking louder than words, and they're inspiring. People are going to walk away very inspired. They're going to walk away thinking, I saw something I never thought I'd see before. And I tell people when I'm at races, I've had the pleasure and honor to be at World Series games, at Super Bowl, at Rugby World Cup, at the Olympics. I've seen all those events. And all those events do not compare to the finish line of an Ironman. They do, but they don't. Because our sport is individualistic in a good way. They're seeing dream after dream after dream come true right before their very eyes. So Tulsa is going to be awed. They're going to be shocked. They're going to be walking around town going, "Look at the legs on that person. My God. How the heck do you get legs like that?" Yeah. And they're just not going to. Yeah. They're gonna love it. They're just gonna absolutely adore it.
Wow.
Well, I am super excited, and even just to meet
Now,
all
Carolyn,
these athletes. Yes.
I hate to interrupt you, Carolyn, but I'm gonna challenge you. You better be there to the last finisher at that midnight hour. Do you hear me?
Okay. I'll hang in there with you, Michael. Do I get the day off tomorrow? I'm kidding.
Oh yeah.
Take the week off just so you could have that magic 2 hours. That 15-hour to 17-hour mark is just magical.
You won't believe it. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, sounds good. You got me there. So, Mike, well, I'm excited to be around, of course, a lot of endurance athletes. You yourself, you're an endurance athlete, but also an endurance announcer, because if it hasn't dawned on anyone yet, like you're also out there through the night, through the day, and then the night again, encouraging those out there. And so I know that's got to be difficult and hard. We have an audio question from a student who has a question, and see if we can get some advice from you on how to do those hard things.
Hi, my name's Jack, and I'm 10 years old. My dream is to become a professional soccer player and survivalist. Mike, it's pretty amazing that so many people are encouraged by the sound of your voice. As an athlete myself, it takes a lot to keep practicing and playing after a hard game. What word would you give to a student like me to keep going?
Just keep following your passion, Jack. That's what you do. People say to me, "How can you go 17 hours on the microphone?" I say, "How can I not?" Because I love it. And when you find something that you're loving to do, like soccer, you work hard. And you always have to know when you're in a competitive sport. And I've got, I had a lot of competitors out there wanted to have the microphone instead of me. So you figure out a way to work harder than they do. put in the extra hours. And then it's broken down. It's very simple. The hours matter. Sure, you'll have a tough game and you want to recover and you figure you should lay around the next day. But I always figured my competitors aren't laying around the next day, so I'm not going to. And rest and recovery is huge, but you'd be surprised how much of it you can push through. So don't think just because you had a tough game or you had a tough match or you had a tough conversation. The more you work at something, the better you're going to be. It's really a simple foundation.
That's great, Mike. Well, Mike, we want to definitely get into, we mentioned your book. I'm holding it in my hand here. Mike Reilly, Finding My Voice. I've already worn out this copy. I think I need to get another one. I want to talk just a little bit about the book, Mike. Again, it's called Finding My Voice, Tales from Ironman, the world's greatest endurance event. What is one of your hopes that you have for the reader to take away after that they've read it?
Well, so many years I had a book in my head, but it was like a never-ending story because I kept seeing never-ending stories, right in front of me. So, but what I felt it would have been selfish of me not to write the book, not to pass on some of the most incredible stories that I've seen unfold in front of our very eyes. Some were public and people knew, some were not. So I wanted people to walk away, not with Mike Reilly saying this and inspiring you and motivating you. And the book is, while I wrote reluctantly sometimes with my writer, things that I did and what I go through during the day. But it was the thing that makes me the proudest is being able to tell someone else's story from my eyes, what I saw. And I just want people to walk away going, oh my gosh, what am I complaining about? Look what she went through. Look what he went through. Look what they're still going through. And I still communicate with a lot of the stories in the book, and some are still having struggles. And the thing that's saving them is staying fit, staying healthy, keep moving forward. Just because, you have cancer and maybe it's cured doesn't mean it's not going to come back. You're battling some mental issues. They could always be there. So I wanted people to walk away reading my book going, you know what, I love this because I learned something from it and I can be a better person because of it. And the hardest part was leaving so many great stories out. I couldn't write a Bible. So, I had to leave stories out that are dear to me. And that's why with my podcast, I'll be putting a lot of people on my podcast and they'll be telling their stories. So that's what I wanted people to walk away from. I did feel it would have been selfish if I hadn't have written it.
Wow. Mike, I've told a multitude of people this, and this also is not a book that's, and I want our students and our listeners and watchers to understand too. You don't have to be in the sport of triathlon.
No,
you just have to be in life and leadership, have a goal, have a vision, have a purpose. And this book is going to speak directly to that.
It does. As I said before, Ironman mimics life, and this book it is life. Even though they are in the Ironman world or the endurance sport, or they run marathons, it's not about that. It's about what they're overcoming on a daily basis. You read the Matt Long story, the New York City firefighter that was crushed by a city bus. Took everybody 45 minutes to get him out from underneath it. Should have never walked again. The seat post went up through his chest. I mean, when you read that story, you go, wait a minute, what? And what he is now and what he is today and what he worked through to be back to the man he was before. When I was writing it, guys, to share this with you, I kept thinking, what if this happened to me? I didn't, it wasn't about, but I'm thinking, could I have gotten through this? I don't know if I could have. Oh my gosh, how did he do that? It became very emotional for me because I'm thinking, I hope this doesn't happen to me. I don't know if I can push that hard. But when you see somebody else do it, you go, well, okay, maybe I can if it happens. You never want travesty to happen to anybody. Yeah. But when it does and you see what they push through, you go, okay, I'm not complaining about my sore ankle anymore, but about not being able to get a lot of sleep or whatever. I gotta work through this. So
that's good, Mike. Did I mention I do actually have a sore ankle? I do.
Well, being the positive guy I am, hey dude, at least it's not 2 sore ankles, okay? Quit complaining.
But and we have one more question from the book. This one actually comes from acknowledgments. That's how good the book is.
Wow.
And
yeah.
And you thanked. It was beautiful. You just thanked a ton of people. I love the gratitude that just came out through those pages. And you talked about the 5 P's to success. The proper planning prevents poor performance. Anything that you can add to that?
Yeah, I put that in because to my other colleagues in the sport, because complacency is a disease in my mind, and the way you're not complacent is you prepare. And I still get nervous and thinking about picking up that microphone and talking to how many thousands of people and what am I going to say. But what helps take those nerves away? That proper planning, preventing poor performance. Preparing for that event, preparing who the sponsors are, reading the bios through. I read everybody's name 4 or 5 times just to get them in my head. When it comes up on the screen, it's familiar to me. It may remind me of a story that person had. I don't memorize everything. I just read a lot. So being prepared, it's funny. A lot of times I go on stage at a ceremony and we'll have a half hour to go and I'm all ready to go. And I don't want to read anything. I go, I'm fine. And people go, God, you're going on stage? And I go, I'm good. I got it. I prepared. And I feel good about it because I did prepare. So those 5 P's have lived with me for 40 years. Proper planning prevents poor performance in no matter what you do. It's not about a running race or a triathlon. It's about getting your homework done. It's about giving that next speech. It's about having a conversation with a loved one. What am I going to say? And how are they going to react? Things you think about. You plan. When you plan well, you perform well. Simple as that.
Mike, that's so good. We're going to put that on the back of my wall. Michael says dreams come true, or I'll get the 5 P's
I love it.
behind me. Well, Mike, it's so obvious. It's so evident. Obviously, you love the sport and you love getting to be a part of this amazing transformation that people get to experience in becoming an Ironman. But I want to ask you, your love for it grows each year, but what is it that you absolutely love to do about what you get to do?
Oh my gosh, interact with people, trying to find out what their goal is, trying to find out what their dream is. It's really being able to interact with beautiful souls, people that have gone through such tough times in their lives, and to see them come to the other side. And I get to be that exclamation point at the end of that event of theirs. I get to tell them, and I always keep in mind, everything's online now. They're listening online. Obviously, the people there are listening, and I'm talking to their family members. I'm telling their family members, here comes Sally, and from Tucson, and she's an Ironman. And when their family hears that, they've been going through the training with her. The kids have been going through it, whomever their extended family is. That's what I love most. It was tough. It was tough during the pandemic. I announced Ironman New Zealand in March of 2020, got home on March 10th or 11th. And you know what happened? It was like, what's going on? And we didn't have an event until November. We got pulled one off in Florida, in Panama City Beach. But it was almost like a way station. We went, we got in, we were a little scared. We did a great event, brought across Chris Nikic, the first person with Down syndrome to finish an Ironman. That was glorious. And I got to bring everybody in, and then went home. And now Tulsa is like Tulsa is like the beginning of the road. We had St. George 70.3 2 weeks ago, but Tulsa is like the beginning of our North America road. Here we go. It's like following Route 66 from California to New York. You know, we're starting in Tulsa and we're going to just go the whole year long. So how Tulsa goes, I think, is how the rest of the year is going to go for us with the events.
Wow. Mike, not planned. If you wouldn't mind just staying on that track for just a moment, we're planning on releasing this episode a week from today. And so athletes are going to be only less than a week away from their big day. Anything that you like to say to those athletes?
Oh, I tell everybody the same thing. You put in the time, you put in the training. Now go have fun. You know, if you're out there like, oh my gosh, I gotta swim this, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. If you're constantly on yourself, give yourself a break. Go out. Paula Newby Frazier, who won Kona 8 times, one of the greatest, most decorated Ironman athletes in the history of our sport. One time she gets up in the front of a bunch of people and she's no nonsense. She goes, hey, I've heard people around town complaining about, oh, it's a tough course. The winds are going to be bad. It's going to be hot. Listen, you're out there with 2,500 of your best friends. Look at it as a long training day and it's fully catered. What more do you want? And it was so simple, but yet so powerful, because you got to go out there and just have fun. And to all you first timers that are doing Tulsa, never done the distance before, you'll get to that finish line and we'll all be waiting for you. You think about that all day long and you watch how it'll help you put one foot in front of the other. No matter how bad you hurt, you will get to that finish line and we'll be waiting for you. Think about that all day long.
So good. Mike, there's a question that we love to ask each of our Dreamer and Doer guests. And it's a question about kind of going back and talking to your middle school or high school self. And it's not necessarily a question that's geared to ask you, what would you change about your years growing up? But if you had to whisper perhaps one bit of advice or encouragement in your middle school years or high school years, what might that be?
Oh, I would tell myself to take my scholastic career and be more serious about it. I would have read more. I'm an avid reader now. Why I didn't read that much back then, I don't know. I liked reading, but one book every 2 months was like huge. Now, if it's not a book a week, something's wrong. So I would have told myself to read more and read things that I didn't know about. I would have told myself to meet new people, because I learned later in life, every new person you meet, they know something you don't know. What better education is there than that? Yeah. To be able to get to know somebody and they know something you don't know and you learn it. The other thing I would have taught myself or said to myself, to learn some languages. That's what I regret. I regret, I can dabble here and there, but learn some languages. And, when I announced Frankfurt Ironman Germany, we had the German guys and I do the English and I could kind of understand what they were saying, but I couldn't say. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wish I could speak German. Or when I go anywhere else in the world and there's another language, I wish I could speak this language. So I would have told myself to learn a language besides the one Definitely do that.
I love the advice of learning things that you don't know about. I think that's really cool, because sometimes you can just kind of encapsulate. I know way more than I need to about flowers and other things. But so, Mike, for our very last question, we call it our last.
We're almost done. What are you kidding me? I thought you guys were going to prepare me for Tulsa. We've got
16 more hours to go, Mike. Okay, not 16, but rather 60 seconds for this last part here. And this is a chance where we give our Dreamer and Doer guests to speak to our students. Anyone that's listening out there needs the encouragement, whether they're a dreamer or a doer, or perhaps both. But are you ready for your last minute link?
Sure.
Let's do this. All right, Mike, ready, set, go.
Always keep in mind, you are the cause of your own experiences. Sure, things can happen in your life. You can get rear-ended by a car that was out of your control. But if you live by the premise that you're the cause of your own experience, what you're going to do is take responsibility for who you are, what you say, and what you do. And that's going to make you such a strong human. Knowing that the experiences that you're creating in your life are positive, that don't hurt anybody else, that make others happy. The experience of calling someone an Ironman, I know I'm the cause of that, but it's for someone else. So if you're the cause of your own experience, what you end up doing is you end up being a person that people want to be around. They want to love. They want to hug. They want to be, they want to be you. So always know that you are the cause of your own experience and take responsibility for who you are, what you do, and what you say. And you will be the strongest person you can possibly be if you do that every day of your life. Was that 60 seconds?
It was, I got the real timer. It was 70 seconds, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I get it. You're an endurance guy. So
Carolyn, you are picking this up. I like the direction of where this is heading. I think after May 23rd, you may be registering for an Ironman. I'm feeling it.
I gotta make it to at least just midnight first. Just hearing the calls. Yes. I'll get there. Yeah. You heard it live, everybody. So Mike, thank you so much. I think that is such sound advice, taking responsibility over your life and where you're going to end up. You know, you're right. We don't always control the things that happen to us, but we can control how we react to it and what we do from there. And so I think it's so good. Man, Michael, I'm not quite there to Ironman level races yet, but I'm there to midnight. I'm so excited.
Mike and I will be working on you. It's gonna happen. Mike, it's been an absolute thrill to have you as a guest on our podcast. And I'm just saying this to you personally. I know you've heard so many athletes and people from around the world say this to you, but you've had a direct part in helping me reach my dreams. And so I just want to thank you for that. We're going to include, of course, in our show notes, just the breakdown of this interview. But Mike, our students that are listening, where can they find you? Where can they learn more about you?
Oh gosh, I'm on Instagram. It's at Ironman Voice. The same with Twitter. My website is mikereilly.net, and you could see my podcast. They'll be up there. I think we're dropping the first one on Thursday, so you can find me there. I'm easy to find. You can send me messages at mikereilly.net. I answer all my messages and get back with you, because that one person that you don't answer back could be one that needs it the most. So I answer everybody back. And I'll be doing a book signing in Tulsa Saturday morning at, what's the name of the place? It's a coffee place downtown. Oh, shoot. I should.
Carolyn, maybe the person to answer that question.
There's a few. I was like, there's Cherry House. I'm trying to think of what actually. Cherry House on Coffee Street, I think, is a popular one. I'm trying to think of ones that they would do a book signing at.
Yeah, he's actually doing the Ironman race. I'll be putting it out on my social, but it'll be Saturday morning. I'm not bringing a great number of books, but I'll bring enough to, like 40 or 50 to sign. And
we'll do our homework. We'll find out where that coffee shop is. We'll pass that along. And hey, students that are listening and watching, Mike will occasionally jump on an Instagram Live or Facebook Live at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So that's another great opportunity to see Mike.
Well,
some of our students are already awake. So
yeah, in the transition, I like doing it in transition when all the bikes are sleeping. I'm the only one in there. It could be 3:30 or 4, and they're waiting for their athletes. And I just think about those bikes are going to carry them to their dream today. It's emotional, and everybody is just waking up, and I'm down there just kind of waiting for them. I'm waiting for the family to show up for a holiday dinner, and it's a special time, special moment.
It's going to be. Well, Mike, we'll look forward to seeing you in 12 days. Again, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for making us better.
You got it, guys. Thank you for having me. As always, my warmest aloha, aloha nui loa, aloha with love to each of you. And Michael, I tell this to my friends: have a great race and don't suck. Okay, I got to see you at the finish line. Okay, all right, good.
I got it. Got the marching orders. We'll see you, Mike.
Got it. All right, see you guys. Bye bye.
Bye,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Michael, is that the blurb we're gonna cut and put out there?
That is the blurb right there that I'm going to mentally rehearse over and over throughout the day on May 23rd. Wow. Who needs? I said this to Mike. Like, who needs caffeine when you have Mike Reilly with you, or you have his book right here, or this podcast?
Pretty spectacular. You're getting me there, but don't read into that too much. All right. So if you are feeling, of course.
Just thinking before we wrap up, I know we're caught up in this, but you know what, I don't think we said this during the question, but we asked Mike about what he loves that he does. But it's something that we talk to our students a lot about. If they really take this moment, this window of opportunity serious, that there is an opportunity for them to do something in life. It might not be, working here at LoveWorks. It might not be being an announcer with Ironman, but they have an opportunity to do something and find something that they love. And I'm convinced if you put in the work, if you prepare, if you plan, that it's likely that you also could get paid for that something. And I believe that something is also meant to make the world a better place too. And I love that Mike doesn't ever refer to what he does as work or a job. And I wouldn't even be surprised if he maybe even forgets that he gets paid for it. But it's so much more than that. And that's the life that we have the opportunity to live and to give back, this one life that we've been given. And that's one of my biggest takeaways from getting the opportunity to know Mike from a distance.
Oh, that's cool. Well, if you are inspired now, I'm sure you are, but if you want to learn more about Ironman races, and you could also check out some of our episodes where we interview other dreamers and doers who have also done the impossible. And so Amy Downs, she's episode number 6. She was an OKC bombing survivor. Sophie Radcliffe, a UK endurance athlete. She's episode number 19. And Daniel Tiger, I believe he was Oklahoma's first professional triathlete, right? So he's episode number 39.
Yeah, that's awesome. So check out those episodes. If you want to learn more about LoveWorks and our mission and our work with students across Oklahoma, you can check out loveworksleadership.org, and that's a place that you can find all things leadership. And remember, everybody, that real leaders, they don't blend in, but they stand out.
Dream big.
And do your dream.